Well, hello everybody. I'm doing this educational video. It's got to be done. A lot of folks always run to any other narrative, but the narrative that's right in front of their faces. I'm no stranger to this. I've tagged a lot of Canadian politicians, former and past, or even some current, lots active with political parties, various. We're going to go through some serious histories here. This is what America sees as deadly accurate of what's wrong with Canada. And Canadians, for the life of them, can't figure it out. Over and over, year after year. USA lives in the bigger spectrum called the world. And since 1945, they've had a special place in this world as a authority, a power of such. So I was sick today. I got sick yesterday and I took the day off. But I'm going to tell you this story. So right here we have our membership forms. I got mailed out, Elections Canada. Why these are so important is that everyone who wants to run, volunteer, go forward with our party, they have to fill one of these out. They're free. Parties don't charge. This is the actual legal membership form to register you with the political party in Canada. You'll find that all the political parties don't do that. Liberal Party of Canada, the current CPC, very old parties, their founding memberships are long since dead. They don't do these anymore. They haven't for a long time. Most parties don't, even at the provincial level. They've already made their money. And there's a provincial form. Every single province has one too, and a different process. But you'll find none of these parties provide that to you, the general subject, the average third class. You're not to really know about this. They've already handpicked their elites, their friends, their committed ones to the progress of the party. They definitely don't want any of you on anything like this. I asked People's Party of Canada folks, how many of you did one of these? You would have had to. The answer is none, because the reality was CPC founding membership controls your party. That's what Maxime Bernier rolled out right from the beginning. So I'm going to tell you what happened here. These were sent out to me, registered mail, hand delivery, all that. Big box. This is my collection from across Canada. I even have another set coming eventually here. I'm going to get that soon. But almost lost these. So Ken Maurice sends them. Nothing wrong with what he did. Registered mail, bang, right to your door, right? Address is correct, all that. Oh, Dave, it was delivered Tuesday. Huh? It's not delivered here. Talked to the landlady, everything. Nope, nothing came here. Then the screenshot of the picture delivery. That's not my home. It's listed in a whole other town. I'm like, oh, okay. I need the address. So we've been panicking 2 days. Just ran me sick, right? I lose all this. It's gone. Holy. And, so I'm not doing too well, pretty stressed out. And last night it hits me. It's like, maybe it's not in Oshawa, this other town. Maybe it's here. Maybe it's just simple as the unit block I'm in. Maybe it's the other unit. Maybe they flipped, I just get in my head, 17 and 71. So I jump in the car, I rip through, there's 17, and sure enough, there's the bird feeder in Ken Maurice's picture. There's the box of all our forms. Run up to the door. So I'm a little wore out, but it's okay. Got it all, got everybody, and then we got a pile more online, and we need folks to fill these out. You have to do this. If you want to run, volunteer, or take an appointment, you have to start with this. Elections Canada General Political Forum, known as page 14. This is 2019. There's an upgraded 2024. We need folks to do that. You can't run, you can't volunteer, you can't do anything without this done. And then there's a non-disclosure agreement to get into the bread and butter of it. All the political parties do it. You, the commoners, don't know anything about it. You've never known in your entire history, your mommy and daddy's history, your grandparents' history, great-grandparents and great-grandparents before that. They've kept these kind of things very quiet. I'm probably the first person to ever showcase it, go through it, let alone highlight the thousands of crown positions. USA, Donald J. Trump, he knows all of this. He knows all of the appointment systems. He knows how there's absolutely no accountability. He knows lots. And he says today, Canada 51. And we're going to go through the history of Canada, all of it. Western concepts, Reform, Alliance, Alberta independence. We could do Quebec too, but I'm going to focus specifically on the history of Western Canada from its roots and what people keep running to. I did too, and I gave a legal path during this guy's first term, and I gave you all the United Nations Security Council, the only path in the world today, if you're serious about independence, like you really want that, or you want a Western bloc, so to speak, like these groups have all said, but yet not one of them have ever pursued the legal path in the world today. And it's so not easy. It's not an easy road, but inside Canada, the way to do it is made nearly impossible for a reason. The Crown doesn't want that. They don't want you to achieve any of those things. So if you realize that, which I don't understand why all of these groups from then till today still haven't, but I learned it. I learned it from Americans, in fact. I got the answer from Americans. The answer I'm going to share to you. We're going to get back to this first slide in Donald J. Trump and why Canada, the 51st state. Why does he keep hammering that home? We're going to give you that absolute answer, and I think that's going to make a lot of sense for a lot of folks. But I'm going to start at the beginning. I know Canadians are always, history, civics. We don't want none of that. Whereas Americans love history and civics because that's how they're born and bred. It's no accident Canadians don't. They complain about it. Social studies, adamant. No history, no looking at anything except for the history they want you to know or look at. Never at the country, the world, the system that works today, geopolitics. They don't want you to know any of that history. No. Let alone learning the civics of your own constitution, your highest laws, how you're designed as a country, who you are in this country, you, the people. They don't want you reading any of that. They definitely don't want you learning history, not real history. They don't want you learning civics. No, sirree. Don't let them see it, because if they start looking at the USA's constitution or even the Russian Federation's constitution and then start going back and looking at their own constitution, they're going to say, hey, we got a real bad raw deal here. Like, this is borderline inhumanity here. And that's because it is. So without further ado, we're going to get into that. I'm doing the best I can. Like I said, I'm pretty wore out, but bear with me, and we're going to go through these slides. Super important, and get to the final answer of why folks are in narratives they're in. Thank you. So this is the first slide I put up, and we're going to revisit this one, and it's the truth of independence and statehood. And then you've got Donald J. Trump, who's been banging on a drum consistently, non-stop. Canada, the 51st state. He doesn't say anything other than Canada, the 51st state. More than 40 times now, 40 times since December 2nd. That's all you've heard out of this man's mouth. Any notions of anything else that nobody wants to listen to just isn't true. He's only ever said and been adamant about Canada, the 51st state. And then we built our party of the Canadian Constitutionalists, for that end. So here we are. This is what happened to me, and you're going to see that in a minute. This is what I learned, the legal path to independence. In 2019, as an Albertan, I'd had my fill, and I wasn't happy with all the narratives that were brought out by everything in Canada before, and how they all got hijacked, every single one, or disbanded. And I thought, there's something wrong with this concept in Canada. I want to find out how it works and how it really is. So I began researching, and of course that brought me to the United Nations Security Council, permanent 5 members, known as the Allies of World War II. And I learned on a big list that since 1945, there have been 84 countries to gain independence from colony regions. They're all color-coded here. Shows you the years and everything else. This is all, there's pre-1945. There's Canada, registered as pre-1945, just like USA. There's not a whole bunch. Look at the world map. You can see all of UK's colonial assets there. UK is a pre-1945. You can look at the Northern Kingdoms there, Europe, they're pre-1945. You can look at Iceland, Australia. You can look at all those. New Zealand, they're all pre-1945, meaning according to Russia and USA, these countries are already independent. And then you get color codes of years post-1945 from there in the lighter blue. This is deadly accurate. This is a map of the entire world. This is what Russia and USA view as accurate. So since 1945, 30 countries no longer exist or stay as non-recognized states. And of course, Russia there, everybody, they gained their independence from communism, or the Russian Federation, 1991, fall of the Soviet Union. They got their independence. One of the newer states in the world. See that? One of the newer. Then you can see all the white states haven't got it or never will. And that's in white. Since 1945, 30 countries no longer exist or stay as non-recognized states. That anyone, it's a free-for-all land. This has always been the truth, that yet no group wishes to go through. People talk about, we want Canada cut in half. I want my province. I get all that. But when I ran Alberta Independence with the majority on a platform, this is how I led it. I knew that we were never going to get independence without anything other than what the UNSC P5 provides, that they've always provided for since 1945. Anybody outside of that never gets it. Never, never, never. And Canada's a very old state. Look at it. There's UK's probably the oldest, almost black. If you can see in the picture, UK, that little triangle island right here, is almost black. Dark blue regions, darker blue, darker blue. There's US independence, 100 years before them, but they show you in the years. And they haven't changed. And look, there's Australia, New Zealand, many Asian countries. You see right there with China, they became communist in the 1952. They're lighter blue than the rest. So it's important to understand the truth before we get talking. So here I show you can find me on Wikipedia. This is all the separatists who ever ran under the banner of Alberta independence. Corey Morgan, he's tagged in this. I know him very well. Yeah, he gave me permission to use the party name. I did my own. We all tried this at some point in history, right? And you can see the results. I ran a majority. No one's ever done that. People talk about Alberta independence, yet when's the last time in any Alberta history anyone ran 87 seats for Alberta independence? Well, it's never happened. I'm the only one, the closest, at 63. And even after 14, Corey, they tried to get to that point. They tried, they couldn't get there. And that was almost 20 years before me, right? And this is all under Alberta separatism, movements of annexation, Canada to the United States, list of political parties in Alberta, politics of Alberta. We could go on to Quebec, who had much more success, way more than Alberta's ever had. And it's important people see things as they really are. So this is Alberta for separation from Canada, an independent country. Here's your list. The only people to ever even tackle it. Corey tried. They didn't make it in time for the registration. I hit it, 63 out of 87. Currently vacant. They tried 14, didn't do too well. Even a less share after the fact. That was 2023. Okay? So, Albertans like to bang on drums, say a lot of things, get emotional and everything else. But what have you actually physically done of yourself to see what you want done through? And I was really erased on Wikipedia for providing the United States of America and Russian Federation education. My platform was centered around that truth, how you legally do this, how most of the world's legally done this successfully, and then I showcased who didn't. Everybody doing everything in Canada the way they're doing it. That never works out. In fact, since 1945, they've all failed epically. And I mean epically. So it's no accident that they would erase that legal platform and let's go with the same old garbage since the dawn of Canada, because this has been going on since the dawn of Canada. We can go back in history really quick here. I'm going to hit it. We had the Northwest Rebellion. That was against this Eastern Canada. Farmers and natives band together. Métis, Indians who didn't want the railroad coming through, didn't want any of these forced impositions. It was right after the forced numbered treaties. They had a revolution. Indians and farmers. The army came in, hung a whole bunch of people under British law of ancients, hung them all by the neck till they be dead, or quartered and shot. So that's what happened in Alberta history. No more Western Rebellion. There was a Western Army created following that point, south in Calgary, and then on to Suffield Base, that's currently vacant today. This is another thing Donald J. Trump highlights, but apparently Albertans, Canadians, Western Canadians can't see this, that you have no more United Kingdom Army in Western Canada. In fact, you don't even have one in the East. There were 7 bases. They're all abandoned, expired ammunitions and junk equipment, all thrown into the lakes, poisoning your water tables. So Canada-wide, UK started in 2021 with COVID, pulled all their people out. They never returned, and then they began pulling out all their massive equipment, which went to Ukraine to fight Russia. It's all destroyed. There's nothing to come back to Canada. So right now, currently, we sit with that Western military base vacant. All the military bases, British occupied in Eastern Canada, vacant. Western, Eastern Army, no more. All that remains is Canada's largely supply military that doesn't even make its NATO or NORAD commitments. Sorry, I'm just going to see that one. So we had the Northwest Rebellion, were crushed. They put in these military bases. Albertans then went on to the United Farmers and Western Canada. It was a Western Canadian party. In fact, it wasn't even just Western Canadian. It was basically a rural independence party because we don't have an elected representative Senate like the United States, where no matter how big the province, you only get 2 senators. We have an appointed Senate that's fused with the Crown, and this is what's always led to the alienation. Not enough Senate seats out west. They're appointed by the Crown and sworn to the Crown anyway. They only exist, not just Western Canada, but this is Quebec too, to abuse rural Canadians. You will work for the big city folks. You will do that. They will overrepresent you. You will be silenced. You will serve the master. USA in its creation recognized this error. This is largely through the first Constitution, Articles of Confederation. It was debated, not put through, but then they got it in the second Constitution, 1787. That's the first thing they did, was create this Senate that was representational of each state, giving sovereignty to the state, no matter how big or how small. That's why it's always an island of red, or sorry, it's a sea of red with these little island blues, Democrat, Republican, because that's how the Senate's set up, to be representational of each state, not population. And it's a check and balance. This check and balance has never existed in Canada. If you're a smaller population province or you're very rural orientated, you're going to lose representation, large representation, and you're going to be pitting city versus rural folks. So that's one of the issues with Canada, and we've seen it. We can go on from there. Social Credit, another party that replaced United Farmers who failed. They ended up getting banking brought by that United Farmers. They did a lot of fighting in Alberta, in Quebec, in Atlantic Canada, BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. This stuff happened. Why? Because there was a rural commitment. There was fishermen in the Atlantic, right? These aren't big provinces. They were fighting back. And this party went on pretty good. And then, of course, it started falling apart like everything, because couldn't get Senate reform, couldn't fix Parliament. That's another problem in Canada. That's absolutely by population. And it's not a district system. It's broken down into these provinces created by the federal government, pretending to be states of the Union, except for there's no sovereignty for the people in the provinces. The sovereignty is shared between the federal and provincial crown, which is Premier and Prime Minister. USA was designed opposite of that. They made sure to put in many check and balances through the district system to continually overlap and break down districts at the federal and state level, so that you'd never have power concentrations in the hands of any kind of crown, because they rebelled against that and they cemented that in their constitution. And through their many district systems, they're able to separate everybody and have them work for the people, and also the people have them accountable to them. And there's checks and balances for that too. None of this exists in the Canadian system. So from Social Credit Party, we went on. There was Western Concept Party. Here comes Gordon Kessler. Folks out of BC who had organized, a lawyer. Kessler ends up getting elected in Alberta politics at the Alberta level, representing, yes, the Wexit concept. He's the original. This is the original party, Western Concept, well, Western Canadian Concept. And it was to separate Canada in half. Gordon got elected on that, yes, separatist, all of it. He was quickly subdued and removed. There's a whole story on that. You can go to Gordon Kessler for that. But again, the narrative was never reach out to the authority, the United Nations Security Council. There was never a narrative, but an in Canada narrative under the Crown. And again, we're going to start answering why. And this isn't an attack on Gordon Kessler. It's just a reality of Canadian mindset and the ignorance of the average Canadian that the USA knows very well. Them, Russia, China, UK, and France. UK and France know it very well too, but they love that they've got Canadians so fooled. We're going to get into that. So there's Gordon Kessler, the first Western Canada concept. These guys are the first. And I take a current picture of Gordon there. He's in the USA now. Good fella. And I understand where he was coming from, but we're going to get into why it was a failure and what USA knows the Canadians don't. Why these ideas of Western concept or Alberta independence, all of it, are always going to be failures, at least as we narrate them, and why they're set up to be that way. So right after Gordon, right, that example, here comes Preston Manning, the Reform Party. Well, Preston wasn't first, but this was the Reform Party, started in the 87s. basically bouncing off of what happened with Gordon, shaking off the idea that Gordon or Alberta independence or a Western concept, they were going to have a better one. Reform Party of Canada, have that Senate reform, all the things that are American I tell you about, but they don't want to be American. And this is the problem, right? You want that American Senate, you want that American judicial reform, you want all these things, but yet you don't want to be American. If you want to take all of that's America and have the powers basically of a state in the United States, why not change Reform Party of Canada to the 51st state of the United States? Why not go that far? Why? Why not go to the United Nations Security Council? Why was nothing that Preston Manning wanted to do, knowing that Canada's Constitution could never be breached that way, or there was no normal path to achieve any of this? Because you already have a mass amount of the population holding that overwhelming majority. Why would they ever vote to give it up? Why would they vote in the Canadian system that's clearly broken? And this was always my argument with reform and why I never supported it. And I never supported Preston Manning because, one, he didn't follow international law. He wanted to stay in the lanes of Canadians' broken system and Canadians' party structure. Again, why, right? We have this reoccurring issue. Why do these folks who want all of this, which is America basically, but you don't want to go there, you don't want to follow international law that much easier gets you there, right? You could have the party, but why not target the United Nations Security Council? Like anyone can research, every country who legally was formed, meaning got independence as a colony or region of a bigger state, they went to the UNSC. Anyone who didn't, either A, are not a country anymore and they don't exist, or B, they're a shab state that anyone can have access to, a free-for-all, a wasteland. That's the truth. No real nothing. They can't even trade. They can't do anything. Why? Why is this reoccurring? Oops. I don't know. I hope this... What? Oh, maybe I got hit here. I don't know what's going on here with a bunch of my stuff, everybody. But I'm definitely having... This is Facebook, because I put up 5 slides here. And they're saying that the content's removed. Stephen Harper. So, that's a real shame here. Actually very pathetic. So you got to start wondering what's going on here. Right? I must be really hitting a nerve. I've noticed that the last few days that all of a sudden I put up my slides and all of a sudden they're gone. And it's like, excuse me? So after Reform, here comes Stephen Harper in 2000. By the way, Reform sold itself out as it was about to gain major traction. They were the official opposition. They almost could have took Prime Minister in Canada. And just like that, they sold themselves out to the Progressive Conservatives, aka the original party, Liberal Conservatives, crushing the whole movement, starting it all over again. Fast forward, you get to 2000, here comes Stephen Harper with Alliance Party. He did all the same promises plus tons more, and he campaigned on that. Everybody fed him money from the West. Even from Quebec, people helped him. Some Atlantic Canada. They come up with this Alliance Party. We're going to change Canada. Again, same thing, built up just like Reform with all these promises. We're going to get all these rights that Americans have in the American system. Trust us. We're going to get it done. And folks, guess what happened? Same as Reform Party. Stephen Harper signs off with what? CPC. And then he runs for Prime Minister as the Conservative Party of Canada, which is registered Progressive Conservative, which is what? Registered the original party name, Liberal Conservative, right? Same party, same narrative, always the same thing. Stay in Canada. Don't do these concepts. Just obey. And he did a full 180. Why would you do that? Well, why did these folks all do this? It's a very simple answer, and it's a sad answer. It's called corruption of the crown. So I'm going to go back, at least I have my first slide, which is, like I said, this is very odd, everybody. So, exclamation mark, truth of independence and statehood. Outside, no one's ever produced Canada the 51st state. But truth of independence or statehood, why are all these concepts not really for statehood or never trying to get there? Because of private property rights in the crown. All of these parties exist in the crown system on 91% of Canada being held from you. Whoever wins in the Canadian system wins all the land. 91% of the crown land, federally and provincially. 52% of it for the federal, 48% for the provincial. And Canadians stay on a limited amount. The reason why all of these parties, and again, I'm not accusing, Gordon Kessler's not on this list, and I tag people for them to understand this isn't accusatory, it's the design of the system, that it's always been about never being American, because that means property rights for all Canadians, all First Peoples, and all of these political institutions in Canada that have come and gone. They never truly want to go for reasonable statehood or the reality of statehood. They always want independence, but not independence of the monarchy. They don't want to decolonize. Donald J. Trump is only pursuing Canada, the 51st state, because all they want is to decolonize Canada like every other state in the world from 1945 to today. That is the mandate of every American president, whether you and I like it or not. And he's giving you a beautiful offer that I know you're messed up. We know you need to be decolonized. No, we're not going to break you apart and have half of you go to communist China or the other half do this, or not fix you, not correct your malfunctions. Albertans don't even realize that even if you got statehood, that district system of America turns your province into a tiny fraction of what it used to be. You think you'll be this, oh, we're going to be one state and we're going to be fine and dandy, intact in our borders of Alberta. No, look at your population density. Look at the mass amount of land above you. Look at all the settlements you have to do as an American state. Regardless of Alberta by itself or Canada whole, you still got to set out all the First Peoples. Your Indian Act is gone. You don't get the pleasure of doing that. This man does, right there. His name's Donald J. Trump. And it wouldn't matter if it's Donald J. Trump. Any president of the United States will enforce all four of those Indian laws. Self-determination, self-government, land back, and full settlement of the claims. So Albertans think in their narrow view or Western concept and all these other things that we're going to take the crown, we're not going to have America, we're not going to follow decolonization, we're going to control the crown, it'll be different in our hands, all that land will belong to us, the political class, in our Western concept or our individual state, and we're going to escape. South Africa thought they would do this. Japan thought they'd do this. Germany thought they'd do this. And I can go on and on. There are many, many, many. And none of them have succeeded. Not a one. And this is the pain that Canadians do to themselves. Your ignorance. You're not alone. USA, Russia, China, UK, and France all know there are many countries like you. UK and France love those kind of countries because that's their bread and butter. Canada's their bread and butter. But we have a president today who knows better. He knows you all better than you know yourself. He knows your constitution. He knows what's wrong with you. And he's only ever going to entertain one solution. Canada the 51st state. So they're going to take all of you and do it all in one shot and fix you and do it quickly, and then give you the opportunity over time in the American model system to get things arranged as best they can. If you think that USA will ever entertain any province or go into that balkanization mode, you're wrong. And all you have to do is read every single United Nations Security Council resolution on all those who became countries, all those who gained independence since 1945. It don't matter if it's a Republican or Democrat. It always goes the same way. You don't get unless you, the people, do it this lawful way, one way. And guess what all the Canadians continually do? No, 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 we don't want to follow your laws. No, 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 we're not listening. We're Canada. We're different. We get to go our own way, like all the garbage can countries. Which brings me to why we're going into a garbage can. Because Canadians don't want to follow the system. They want to make it their own. And every other country that's not a country today that wanted to do it, just like you, again, is a dispersed set of peoples in a non-functioning state, in third world status, can't even organize any kind of real government. It's crappy provisional governments, military regimes, dictatorships, people not even living in a reasonable condition. It's poverty, third world, violent often, and there's many of these still around today. You can go look, constantly war-torn. You're never going to get there, Canada. You're never going to get there if you continually to follow your way. The alternative is what Donald Trump's presenting, but that requires all of you too. You've got to build this party, and that's where I'm at. We've got to build a party. You've got to be more than just children now. You need to be people who are going to take your sovereignty unto yourself and see it done. Donald J. Trump or nobody else is going to save you. There's not a divine savior who's going to come in and here you go, you get it all for free. That has never been the United States. That will never be the United States. The United States doesn't do that anywhere in the world. They only fight when people fight and show resilience, and then they support them. If you're not fighting in a military revolution against your regime, or you haven't even started a simple process to even create a party, like you can look at every country that got independence, they did the political route. They all have that in common. They all had some kind of party that was trying to see change. And then when the government beat them down at that point, then you see the allies of World War II go, okay, now you're persecuting these people who've built up a following because you're trying to protect what? Your power, your authority, your crown. You won't give the people their freedom, their power, their sovereignty. Did you read the UN Charter? Has anyone even read it? There's a broken system of the UN, but we are that part of the UN. We are that broken system. We're there with a lot of kingdom empires, still as garbagey today as they always were. Donald J. Trump highlights that. God bless him. But he needs you to do it. He needs you to see it through. He's going to do a lot of heavy lifting. But if you think the USA will come in and do all the work for you, they've tried that in history. And guess how that's worked out for them? USA, bad, 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 bad. They know. They're not going to try to interfere or make you do something you're not willing to do yourself. And until you show that, at least at the first stage, when has a Canadian ever presented statehood on the federal level? When have we ever even tried that? Oh, no, never. It's always about divide this, break that, let's do this, let's do that. Never following any kind of international system, always in our own broken system that can't possibly work. So it's always a trick to get money out of people, to quell resistance, to quell the questioning Canadian, keep you in line, keep you under what? The original two-party system that's always been there. It's all about crown, 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 what they have and what you don't. And all they care about is keeping that, the bulk of this country, from all of you. This is almost all Canadians, at least in the 80 percentile. All First Peoples, nearly 90 percentile. And they do that through the Indian Act. For Canadians, they do that through the 1867 Constitutional Acts of Canada, still in force today, amended but never dismembered of any of this evil that you've asked for routinely many, many times, but you won't go the international route. You won't go to the Allies. You won't even entertain Canada, the 51st state. Donald J. Trump's telling you, I'm willing to bypass everything. I want to see you go Canada, the 51st state. I can support you on that. We even have a Congress and Senate willing to push that through. But you're going to have to do this. You're not going to do the rest of it, the cockamamie and divide and go through the Canadian model, ignoring all international truth at hand, where you've alienated Russia. Have you not been paying attention? Did you not watch the Ukrainian war? Where do you think Canadians sit, Western Canadians or anybody on Ukraine and Russia today? Do you think Russia would vote today for any region in Canada or anything to support any Canadians? Not a chance. And then they look and you got Ukrainian stickers on. You're done. China, look at how much conflict we've had with China, all with the double dealing. Problems with China, they do bad, we do bad. They hate us now too. We've spoken out in defamatory ways and lying while we're making deals with them behind USA's back, at least our politicians. China wants nothing more to do with Canada. Can't trust you. We won't sign nothing, I can tell you that. Now we got USA. This guy will veto. He'll veto any independence. He'll veto any kind of idea of anything other than the one thing he wants. Canada, the 51st state. And people are welcome to go charge forward. Go storm the White House. You're going to get an audience with Donald J. Trump. You're going to find out what I already know. You're locked out of the gate. Maybe if you find a congressman, maybe. Good luck with that. Well, I know one Canadian did that, 2017, after 6 months of pounding on doors. Maybe you guys will be successful. But I know that the presidency can't entertain anything about breaking Canada apart. He wouldn't even entertain any of the premiers. Zero, none whatsoever. So if he won't entertain any of the premiers, and he'll only talk to the federal government, I'm pretty sure that eliminates the rest of us. Can give us hints and all that, but they're not going to do anything for you. They're only going to give you this. The one thing you can say over and over again, Canada, the 51st state. And those who understand this, who study, read the system, see the world as it really is, see the history of the United States as it is, as it really is, this should just come natural to you, and you should just know that. If it could be done or it was going to be done, it would have been done a long, long time ago. I can go back, 1885 was the violent uprising. Since then, it's never been achieved. It's always been the same putrid concept of what? The crown is mine, my precious, my crown. If I have it, it'll be different under me. I'll rule over you differently than the other dictator. So how is Western independence or a provincial independence any different than the system we're in right now? It isn't. Because they're thinking they're keeping all the crown land. They're going to have it, not the people. And that is the problem. These guys know. They know that institutionally we're entirely defunct. Mentally, because of our constitutional soul of our nation, which is no soul at all, it's pure evil. They know this. They've always known this. It's been over and over and over again pointed out, at least since 1945. Never mind their own example through independence, but their life and legacy of the whole world since 1945. It blows me away that people who talk about independence or these ideas of a separate Canada cut in half or any of these concepts wouldn't even go research how the USA sees that done in the world. Wouldn't the normal thing say, okay, which countries have done this in the world? Oh, look, since 1945, we have 84. How did they become countries? How did they do it? Oh, it's this way. Not the way all of you are presenting inside Canada. Not one of them did it that way. So I scratched my head. Okay, so why do these parties keep trying to push the Canadian model? Well, these guys gave me an answer. It's because they don't want to change the model at all. They want independence to continue doing what the Canadian government did that's so wrong against all the people and First Peoples of Canada, but they want to be in charge of that in a specific area for themselves without the federal crown. They want the entire crown, either in a half piece or in a smaller piece, but they want all of that. And then here's USA going, yeah, that doesn't do anything for us. That only magnifies our problem. Now, instead of one contained system, we're going to have a whole bunch of them. Something like what was the Soviet Union? No, thank you. No, thank you. Canada, the 51st state. You're getting rid of the crown. We're going to dismember and redesign you. That's what you need to be. That's where you have to go. I hope people take a lot out of this. I don't know why the Stephen Harper paper isn't in there. I'm going to go look. If that's not there, I looked before I posted, but it looks like something got flagged there, so we'll see. This has been my last two posts. I don't know what's going on in Facebook land, but it is very upsetting. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Share, share, share. Get this message out there. People need to know the truth. Get involved. Do the bare minimum. Election Canada form. That starts with your actual membership, your actual step forward for this party. Questionnaire was great. We're going to be contacting you. Again, we have 2 volunteers right now. We're looking for more, but you've got to do this. There's a non-disclosure agreement. This is all Canadian law, Canadian system to legitimately run in the 338. Whether you like it or not, these ideas that you're going to sit on your hands and do nothing is why Canada's going to go down the toilet, and it is and has been going down the toilet. You've sat there and let your divine master tell you and let you be unaccountable and just sit there like a lump. I don't like this, whine and cry, but you're not willing to do what it takes. I can promise you, Americans, outside of Donald J. Trump, who's a very excellent, great human being to even be offering this, but outside of him, most Americans want nothing to do with Canadians on the aspect of them and their mentality joining the United States. Because of this, sitting on your hands and putting up with the abuse, whining and crying and feeling entitled, and that comes over and over and over again. I see it every day in my life. I've known it since independence, how hard that was. And I know Corey Morgan had said that was pretty amazing what he did, considering just how apathetic and just so problematic Canadians are when it comes to effectually doing something, to give of themselves, to see something done, to put of themselves. It's like, oh no, I'm just here to cry, whine, and somebody else do it for me. I'm entitled. My crown delivers me everything, including slavery. Like, wow. Shackles and bondage. And this is what Americans are fearful of largely. The most is that you're already in the shackles and you're going to corrupt their system. Now, we know as a state, we know how that corruption's abated, how USA designed itself in statehood post 1787 in the Constitution. They have many checks and balances, which has worked out for a lot of the states. Is there more work to do? Yes, USA is always evolving. It's always going to evolve. It'll always get better. At least it can do that. Do you know what can't get better? Do you know what doesn't evolve? Is Canada. And as the years, the technology and the evolution of America continues, Canada's going to get worse and worse to the point these guys have no choice. We're already at sanctions, trade embargoes. In history, since 1945, this can go on for upwards of 30 years. It went on for 30 years, sanctions, trade embargoes, before South Africa was completely dismembered and redesigned. And who led the charge on that? In the end, it was USA, Soviet Union. Sorry, folks, that's the truth. And nobody wants to look at it. No. It's going to be what I say it is. Don't you know who I am? I'm Canadian. We make it up. We hate America. We're going to have our own crown, our own way. We're going to do it. We're different than the rest of the world. We're special, entitled. And the world's going, you can't even defend yourself. Like, especially America. Provinces have no military. The federal government, this nation, barely makes a military equatable to that of a state. At its size, it's weak, very weak. And that's the military of the Canadian government. NORAD, NATO, we don't contribute. In fact, we don't even honor any of our treaties. We didn't even finish up USMCA. We haven't even imposed it on 62% of organizations in Canada. That's a highlight Donald Trump's showing you. That's why he put it in the executive order. You can't even follow treaties. You never do. It takes you 50 years to follow a treaty if you're ever even going to do it. You're going to stand there like this. We're entitled. We don't have to do shit. We sign a contract with you. That's a lie. We're liars. You know, and Canadians accept that. Politician goes into election. They told me a bunch of lies. I'll just wait 4 years. I'll elect somebody else. I'm really mad in Alberta. Daniel Smith betrayed me, just like Jason Kenney betrayed me, just like Alison Redford betrayed me. I mean, there's more than that. I'm just going off. It goes on and on. It's every 4 years. Doesn't matter if it's Alberta, Ontario, BC, Quebec. They all do this. Oh, they betrayed me. Vote another one in. Or they get a master manipulator who's just sucking the life out of them, and they go on 3, 5, 10 terms, right? Not 10, but you know what I mean? 3 to 5 terms. Insanity. And then, well, it's normal to be able to run as much as you want. Lifetime elected? These guys got term limits. 2. That's it. Term limits. They have scheduled elections you can't change. Canada? Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll have an early election. Any province, any territory, federally, quite often. Oh, quick, have an election. Right? We can't have scheduled elections. It gives people informed time to make their decision on the government. No, we just have an election whenever we want, when it suits us, not for the people. It's not really democratic. And these are all markers that the USA red flags us. We're an electoral autocracy. This is done in U.S. academia, Republican and Democrat alike. Why do you think he's so aggressive with us? They've got the reports of what U.S. academia's got, and lots of Republicans there. Holy, they're an electoral autocracy. They're not even a democracy. Constitutional monarchy, yeah. Oh, they call it a parliamentary democracy, but that's only not really the legal title of what they are. They're a constitutional monarchy. No democracy there. And then when you analyze their parliamentary democracy that they narrate themselves, they tell Canadians in the world, they're really good at lying, then they put the academics on it, comes back, it's not a parliamentary democracy, it's an electoral autocracy. Oh, okay, so totally opposite of what we thought. Oh, wow. Oh, Prime Minister is not limited. These aren't just ceremonial titles of crown. These are effectual, accurate powers of a dictator, an autocrat. Oh, okay, so they're an autocracy. Well, that changes how our relationship with them. I think the only path forward is Canada 51st state. Because they know the Allies aren't going to support anything else. They're saying, just come with us. We are a UNSCP 5 member. You don't have to worry about getting independence. You can just go into statehood. You only need a prime minister to do that in your crown and in our legal laws. That's all we need. Get a prime minister to do it. Make a federal party, present the platform, get it done. Why any Canadian who says that for all these other recourses, why you wouldn't do that? Well, we know why. You're under the delusion that you can hold the crown, that you're going to run with the crown, and you're going to keep all that land for yourself, all the resources for yourself. That's all we ever hear. And I put Benjamin Abel at the top, and I didn't want to put him at the bottom because this is the Canadian institutionalized mind versus the American mind. And I'm sure Benjamin Abel understands this now, and he sees it every day of his life with that Alberta statehood movement and the folks in there that they constantly hammer on resources. They constantly hammer on things that are not of a national view. Like Americans go, like, what don't you get? You get all that as a state. Why is that still some kind of fear and argument? Oh, I get it. You don't want private property rights. You don't really want that. You want to keep the crown land, but you want to be the government official bleeding all that land. You want the crown on your head. You want to be in control. You want to tell everybody else. You want to be Trudeau. You just want to be Trudeau at the regional level and everyone's supposed to be under you, and they're your subjects. Oh, makes perfect sense. And for Americans, they know this to be true. This man, Donald J. Trump, absolutely knows this to be true. When these style of people institutionalized in this superiority, it's a superior narcissism. That's what the crown creates. That entitlement that Americans are so used to from Canadians, it's a narcissism embedded from birth because of the crown system. And it's that illusion that it's supposed to be a childhood story, princes and princesses, and I'm special, and I'm the king's daughter, and I'm going to have a wealthy life, never having to work, and I wear beautiful dresses and jewelry, and I have so much wealth, it's just given to me. That's a fairy tale. Americans know that, just like the Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, and Canadians, they know Santa Claus isn't real, Easter Bunny isn't real, but this power, this idea of crown, that's real to them. And they're adult children running around believing that somehow that they're different than everybody else. They're special in this world. They get to chart their own way, and they get to keep the crown, keep all the resources, keep the land. It's mine, and all the subjects will obey me. I'll even write the Constitution that they must live by, because we can't have anybody coming up with that on their own. No, because I might get cut out of the equation. I've never presented anything but the people. That's what we're doing here. That's what this man's producing. He only wants to see Canada 51st state because it's we the people. Just like what? The United States of America. That's my video. It's very sad on slides. I'm going to have to look at what's going on here. It makes no sense to me. But thanks, everybody. God bless. Share. So many messages. Help me explain this. Help me. It's like, it's better. I make one video and you guys all share it out. Every question answered, all history provided, all civics provided. And there's no real argument. I don't know why people are arguing. The statehood platform is very simple. USA is going to impose so much. We get an enabling act from Congress. That's how simple it is. And then from there we go into constitutional conventions for all First Peoples and all Canadians across Canada. As I always wanted to. That's the way to do it. That's real we the people republicanism. That's real democracy at the grassroots. If nobody is championing that or wanting to do that, you don't want to be independent with those people. You don't want to be a Western concept with those people. If they're not talking about completely usurping any of those notions and narratives, they're not for you. They're for themselves. They're for the crown. And it's been proven over and over and over and over again that that's where they go. They all go back to the crown, to the party system, and that's what they want, the power, the control. They just want to get more power, more control at smaller regional levels without having to pay tribute to a higher crown. It's sick, it's futile, it's everything that's not written in any Bible, any Quran, or any Israeli text, Old Testament, doesn't matter. Zero, zip, zilch, none. In fact, everything written in those biblical texts, at least those three mainstream religions, is the opposite. In fact, to tell you, don't do that. Don't give that power to a human being. But yeah, we do. We say, oh no, it's different. I'm religious. It's normal. No, you're not religious. That's called a cult. It's a very old cult, a very powerful cult, but it's a cult nonetheless. That's my video. Share. Get it out there.